50,000 voices roar your name. The sun beats against your armor. Your sword feels like it weighs 100 pounds. Across the arena, another man stares at you, not as a rival, but as a killer who must spill your blood to live another day. You take a breath and realize you're not the hero of some epic film. You're a gladiator. And in ancient Rome, you wouldn't even survive a single day. For centuries, gladiators have been painted as noble warriors, heroes of the Colosseum, cheered by crowds, bathed in glory. But peel back the Hollywood fantasy, and the reality is far more brutal. Gladiators were slaves, property, disposable entertainment for an empire obsessed with blood sport. Their lives were short, their deaths even shorter. And today, we're stepping into their sandals to see why you wouldn't last a day. First, let's be clear. You don't choose this life. Very few volunteered. Most gladiators were prisoners of war, condemned criminals, or slaves sold into combat. Some were even men who owed debts they could never repay. In Rome, your body was currency. And once you were branded a gladiator, your body no longer belonged to you. Signing the gladiator's contract was essentially signing your life away. It was called a sacramentum gladiatorium, an oath binding you to your trainer, your lanista. In it you swore to be burned, bound, beaten, and killed by the sword. That wasn't poetic language. That was the reality of your new existence. From the moment you arrived at the Ludus, the gladiator school, the suffering began. You'd be locked in a tiny cell at night, crammed with other fighters, the air thick with the smell of sweat, fear, and disease. There was no privacy, no dignity, just iron bars, stone walls, and the certainty that tomorrow would hurt worse than today. Training was relentless. You didn't pick up a gleaming sword and helmet straight away. Instead, you trained for hours with heavy wooden weapons, designed to exhaust your muscles until they screamed. Imagine swinging a 10-pound wooden sword hundreds of times under the blazing Italian sun, while your instructor barked insults and cracked a whip across your back when you faltered. And remember, your instructors weren't kind teachers. They were often retired gladiators themselves, men scarred and hardened, who believed pain was the only way to make you stronger. You might think gladiators feasted like champions. The truth? Your diet was simple: barley porridge, beans, maybe a scrap of meat if you were lucky. Enough to bulk you up, not enough to keep you healthy. The Romans even nicknamed gladiators hordearii, the barley men. Without proper medicine, infection was your real enemy. A cut today could kill you tomorrow. The Ludus had doctors, yes, but they were experimenting, practicing surgeries and treatments on your body like a test subject. Broken bones healed crooked, wounds festered. Pain became a constant companion. Now the day has come. You've been chosen to fight. The Colosseum towers above you, filled with tens of thousands of Romans, senators, merchants, slaves, children, all baying for blood. You stand in the tunnels, heart pounding, as the iron gates creak open. Bright sunlight blinds you. The roar of the crowd shakes your bones. The smell, sweat, smoke, and dried blood chokes your lungs. The arena wasn't just for duels. Gladiators fought wild beasts, lions, tigers, even elephants, released after days of starvation to make them ravenous. Others faced execution matches, where unarmed men were slaughtered for entertainment. If you were unlucky, your fight was less about skill and more about making the crowd laugh as you died. And here's the cruel twist. Your armor wasn't designed to protect you. It was designed to entertain them. A retiarius fought with nothing but a net and trident against a heavily armed opponent. A murmillo carried a massive shield, but his helmet restricted his vision and breathing. Every pairing was designed for drama, not fairness. The crowd wanted a show. Your suffering was their spectacle. You fight until you collapse. Maybe you're bleeding out on the sand. Maybe your opponent has his blade at your throat. Then comes the moment every gladiator feared, the crowd's verdict. The emperor, or sometimes the people themselves, decided if you lived or died. A turned thumb often meant death. A closed fist mercy. But mercy didn't mean freedom. It just meant you'd fight again next week, with your wounds barely healed. For the Romans, your pain wasn't tragedy. It was theater. So how long could you survive? The truth is, most gladiators were dead within 3 to 5 years of entering the arena. Some never made it past training. A lucky few, those who won enough battles and gained enough fame, might live long enough to retire. But even then, scars, broken bodies, and lifelong trauma followed them until death. Yes, there were gladiators who became celebrities, who won their freedom, who were celebrated like rock stars, but they were rare. For most, the story ended in blood, buried in an unmarked grave outside the city walls. So why wouldn't you survive a day? Simple. You're not built for it. You're not trained for endless hours of brutality. Not conditioned for hunger and exhaustion. Not hardened to the idea of death as your daily companion. Even if you picked up the sword, the fear would paralyze you. The roar of the crowd would break you. The first blow would end you. And even if you somehow survived the fight, infection, injury, or the whip of your trainer would finish what the arena started. Gladiators didn't live in glory. They lived in torment. And they died for the entertainment of others. Today, tourists walk the halls of the Colosseum, snapping photos, marveling at the architecture. But every stone here is soaked in blood. Every arch echoes with screams long forgotten. The gladiators were not heroes. They were victims, enslaved, beaten, forced to die for a spectacle. And you would not last a single day.